Hello everybody, my name's Daryl. I come from Australia. I lived in China or southern China from late 2009 to 2013. When I was in southern China, I was as a teacher at a middle school in Guangdong, and I had an English tutorial service which I had clients from Guangdong and Macau. In that time, when I was over there, I really enjoyed my life there. I felt free, I felt happy, I felt well connected with people there, and it was a great experience. In late 2011, I established the first Chinese Australian rules football team at a middle school in Guangdong. From that team, other teams got established in the Guangdong region, which later led to a Chinese national team which played in international games in Melbourne in 2014, 2016 and so on. This experience was great. I loved getting involved in sport. I love Australian rules football, and a young person by the name of Lin Hongwei was my journey partner, and I suppose how I like to put it. He was my journey partner in establishing a team. He was my student when I started teaching at the school in 2011, and then he later became the team manager of the team and the sport teacher at the middle school where the team is hosted. And he came over later to Australia for exchange programs after I returned to Australia in 2013. This was a great experience and gave me a sense of accomplishment in that I could give something back to China for being a good host of me while I was there. I wanted to put good values in the young people at the middle school where our team was hosted. Leadership, confidence, manners, respect, all those good things they need to when they go through with their lives in the future. Then when I was back in Australia in 2018, I noticed a very disturbing news coming out of Hong Kong, where protesters were attacking police with petrol bombs, steel bars, bricks, smashing up Hong Kong, vandalising Hong Kong, ransacking shops, and very disturbingly, beating up people in the street, beating up women, which is against values we have in here in Australia about violence against women, and bashing up old people. They were just beating up also anyone who identified themselves as Chinese. And I was shocked. I was thinking, these are Hong Kong people that are Chinese themselves, their DNA is Chinese, and they're beating up other people who identify themselves as Chinese. And I thought, this is really disturbing. And what I found out was that they have been brainwashed into this, by America especially, into being anti-Chinese, into hating China, and into believing that America's the home of democracy and China's the home of some evil empire where they had every right to go and smash up Hong Kong and beat up people and undertake the violence that they did. And then I looked at the reasons. Well, these Hong Kong protesters thought they had the reason to smash up Hong Kong and beat up people when a new law was coming in regards to a girl that got murdered in Taiwan. Her body put in a suitcase, and the boyfriend that murdered her escaped to Hong Kong. So obviously the parents wanted justice, and they wanted her murderer returned to Taiwan to face the courts. And China didn't have an extradition treaty, so China worked with Hong Kong to have some extradition treaty put up. This extradition treaty was all about crimes in regards to murder, rape, and other major crimes, and nothing to do with attacking political freedoms, nothing with taking people to China to who spoke out against China in Hong Kong, nothing to do with it all. The bill didn't contain anything like that in it. The extradition bill had protections for political freedoms, but unfortunately these Hong Kong protesters didn't see it that way. They were so brainwashed by America to hate China, they just looked past all of that and went on a rampage. So I was watching videos sent from people that I know in Hong Kong. I was watching videos by people like Angelo Giuliano and Daniel Dumrill, who I speak to now on WeChat a lot and have conversations about all those issues. And I was very disturbed. I was scared also. A lot of this brainwashing of these young people into violence would go into Guangdong, and the young people that I tried to put all these good values into, and I put all these good values into, may get brainwashed by US influence and by these protesters. So this was very disturbing for me. And so from that, I looked at the Australian media and how they were reporting on it. And when I was watching Australian media, they were ignoring all of the violence and brutality these Hong Kong protesters were doing. And most of the media coverage was favourable to these rioters, to these violent protesters. So I got online, I got on social media in Australia and started, posting these violent acts of brutality on news media, online sites here in Australia, and trying to say that, hey, you're not reporting this, you're not reporting what's really happening there, you're just reporting that these protesters are peaceful. And when I did that online, I also got attacked by other people, not only just Hong Kong protest supporters, by other Anglo-Australians who attacked me and said nasty things to me, racist things to me, abusive things to me. They could never debate in a manner that was civil and was polite and had any substance. They would just resort to insults and calling me a propaganda of China. I mean, my own thoughts come from my own thoughts. My own research comes from my own research. No one brainwashes me into seeing what's right and wrong. And then, as I looked into it further, I saw that the National Endowment of Democracy, this group in America, were supporting the protesters and actually giving them funds and supporting them in other ways. And in researching the National Endowment of Democracy, there was a ex-CIA director named Phil Agee who come out and reported he worked for the CIA. He wasn't impressed with the CIA. He wasn't happy with them when he was working there, I think. That's why he came out and told everybody that the CIA actually established the National Endowment of Democracy. Because what was happening during the 1960s and into the 70s, when the CIA were around the world interfering in other countries, creating riots and creating political interference and even invasions, they were getting caught as the CIA. So the CIA thought, well, we have to have another organisation which shows that we're not linked to. So they set up the National Endowment of Democracy sort of as an external group, which they indirectly funded. And the name Endowment of Democracy sounded a lot better, but whether they were doing democracy is another thing, and it's proven they weren't, because they were overthrowing elected and unelected governments around the world. So we have this issue of them setting up this Endowment of Democracy, and this group is funding a lot of the unrest in Hong Kong. And then so we look at now the issue that Hong Kong want to set up with China this security law, which I think is Article 23. Now, if any other country in the world, even Australia, imagine if Australia had China coming to Australia, going and getting, supporting Indigenous people or Aboriginal people in Australia to undertake this type of violence, this type of mayhem in the country that so they could get autonomy in the country that is their land, that they own. So could you imagine if China did come to Australia, started funding and supporting Indigenous Aboriginal groups to do this rioting and violence for autonomy in their own country? Yet we have a situation where the National Endowment of Democracy, the CIA front, are supporting the violence, mayhem, hijacking of an airport, invading the Hong Kong Parliament, which the protesters do, supporting all this, and basically trying to really, I suppose, overthrow the government of Hong Kong through what they say is democracy, but it's not, because once they get the style of American democracy, or whatever they call it democracy, but they get the style of what they call American democracy into Hong Kong, we will see politicians get funded. We will see direct political interference in taking over Hong Kong completely. So for China and Hong Kong to come up with Article 23 is a very good thing. They need to protect the sovereignty of the country. And this has nothing to do with the the two systems, one country, autonomy of Hong Kong. Because Hong Kong will have its own laws still, they'll have their own judiciary, they'll have their own legislative assembly. But what you'll have is protection from foreign countries coming in, or foreign agents coming in and supporting violence and unrest in Hong Kong. Any other country would do that. The US would do that. Australia would do that. So I think it's a very, very good thing for Hong Kong. And I just think for other countries to get upset about this is hypocrisy. It is crazy. So what's their agenda? Why are they getting upset about it? If these countries are not going to get involved in interfering in China and invading China through a back door in Hong Kong, then they shouldn't have anything to worry about. And what we're seeing from Western media is very anti-Chinese. So and saying to have sanctions and all these other things, and we're starting to see that now here in Australia, where Pompeo's putting pressure on our government to criticise China. They pressured us to criticise China in regards to the coronavirus. They actually, Pompeo and the Trump administration tried to put through an accusation through the US Embassy in Australia to our Australian media that the Five Eyes Intelligence Group, which the Five Eyes Intelligence Group is Australia, Canada, the US and England and a few other nations. The Five Eyes, so their accusation was that the Five Eyes Intelligence Group had some type of report or dossier that the coronavirus came out of Wuhan. So what they did is they put this false intelligence information through the US Embassy in Australia out to the Australian media in hope that the Australian media would then spread this lie to the rest of the world. Well, the Australian government tried to look for this so-called dossier, this Five Eyes dossier report that it came from Wuhan, and couldn't find it. And with all the other evidence, it was proven that the virus didn't come out of a Wuhan lab. So all these false accusations, that the US pulled, is just another way to attack China and trying to attack its credibility. So on from that, with the latest issue with Pompeo telling the Victorian government here in Australia, we have a Victorian government, they're called the Labor government in Victoria as a state. Pompeo's trying to tell them that they shouldn't have their One Belt road agreement with China, which the Victorian government set up to encourage economic growth in Victoria and also employment and some good things. But unfortunately, our federal government is a conservative government or a liberal government, and you know they've been pressured by Mike Pompeo over in America to get the Victorian government to stop this agreement. The Victorian government, Daniel Andrews, and I've met him a few times, just rejected that. He said he's not going to walk away from his agreement with China. And there's very little that the federal government can do. And Daniel Andrews as a leader is very popular here in Victoria. So these are the type of pressures that America are putting on Australia to go against China. So the same is with the security law. So what Pompeo's trying to do is get Daniel Andrews in our government to cut ties with China because this Article 23 law has been put up. And also the Americans are trying to find some way of pointing the finger at China in regards to the coronavirus, when the US have nearly a third of the world's cases through their own incompetence. They didn't listen to what was happening from the World Health Organization. Donald Trump ignored his own advisors who were trying to tell him that he had to get ready for the coronavirus. Even President Obama, before he left office, gave Donald Trump reports on how to deal with any virus pandemic from any country in the world, and he totally ignored it. He cut down the group that were dealing with a pandemic strategy. So he cut the funding of a group in the US who were dealing with this, with any pandemic that would come around from any country in the world. So they were dealing with a strategy, how to do that under the Obama administration, and then Donald Trump cut that department. So he's got no one to blame but himself. So what he's trying to do is put pressure on Australia to be his barking dog at China, to blame China for the coronavirus issue, try to criticise China over the Hong Kong Article 23 issue. Then this brings us up to the current situation with the riots in America. And what we're seeing is a similar situation to Hong Kong. We're seeing shops smashed up. We're seeing some people attacked, police attacked. But also on the same side, police and the National Guard have been out there with some heavy aggressive tactics. There was a video that came out the other day where the National Guard were enforcing a curfew in a street, and one girl opened her door to have a look and they fired shots at her, live round shots. There was a flash of the gun and they fired at her. I never ever saw a Hong Kong police officer fire a live lethal round bullet at any person opening the front door of their house. Now, this is why it's so surprising, where the US were criticising the Hong Kong police for so long that they were heavy-handed in their response to the Hong Kong riots. And the police over there was not one death from Hong Kong police in all of the time of those riots, from 2019 right up to now. So the Hong Kong police were very mild in their response. And in the US in 2019, they had 1,004 killings by shooting by US police. So for America to turn around and point the finger at Hong Kong and say that what they're doing is wrong and what they're doing in protecting foreign interference from having this type of violence in Hong Kong again is just hypocritical, and it is wrong. And here in Australia, but Australian people are starting to see what's happening over there. And what's surprising is that the reason that these riots started happening in America was because of the death of an African American man. And his name was George Floyd. So what the video shows was a police officer, and apparently he was a Trump supporter, first put the handcuffs on George Floyd, then put him inside the police car. And then you see footage which it appears that he's hitting or attacking George Floyd inside the police car. Then from that, he took George Floyd onto the curb and put his knee on his neck. Now, he put his knee on his neck for 8 minutes. For 8 minutes. And George Floyd was screaming, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." His fellow officer didn't tell him not to do it. And George Floyd died. And this is on top of a lot of shootings that are happening by US police, predominantly on African American people, and also predominantly in poor areas of the US where some of the shootings, or a lot of the shootings actually, are not proportionate. There's shootings where people are running away. There's shootings where people are not posing a threat. I saw one video where a carer of a disabled man, he was unarmed, he was an African American man, he was a carer. Police asked him to lay on the ground, and he did, and put up his hands. He was shot. He wasn't presenting a threat. And then America turned around and criticise Hong Kong. It's really surprising. So when I see this, and I see the pressure that the US are putting on Australia to put pressure on China regarding Article 23, I just find it, shocking and surprising. As we see, our foreign minister from our federal conservative liberal government has gone into a joint statement with Mike Pompeo, expressing concern about Article 23. Well, I don't have any concern about Article 23. I think it's there to protect the people of Hong Kong. I think Hong Kong will still enjoy the two systems autonomy. They will still enjoy their political freedoms. They just won't be allowed to bring foreign agencies into Hong Kong to cause violence, unrest, and trying to overthrow the Hong Kong government. And that's what they've been trying to do. And what is really disturbing is, for me as an ex-teacher from China, is the brainwashing of these young people, where they're just brainwashed into being hateful people and being racist against Chinese people of their own background. And as we see this, what's so strange is that the riots in America were caused from racism and the death of a man, and people speaking out against that. But the Hong Kong riots were caused by the death of a girl whose parents want to see justice, and the Hong Kong protesters are protesting against that, against protecting the life of other girls like her. Yet the unrest in America is about protecting the life of people from police who are unnecessarily shooting people or killing people. Not to say that I agree with the violence and the active and the bad side of the activities of the protesters, such as smashing buildings and burning property and sometimes beating up people. I do not support this. But at the same time, they feel that they've got no justice in regards to the protection of African American people. And we just have to look at the history of America. America's built on racism. It was built on killing Indigenous people and the First Nations people first to take over the country. And yeah, so what I was saying was that, America was built on racism. It was built on taking over the nation by killing Indigenous people and seeing them as inferior. And America exported this racism to Hong Kong. Now, after exporting this racism to Hong Kong, it's coming back to America to punish themselves. This racism they hold in America is destroying themselves. And they've exported it to Hong Kong, and now they are suffering from the consequences of their racist mentality. So I believe that America are going to have a lot of disunity now. There's going to be a lot of divisiveness. I still don't see a good life for a lot of US people in the future. Their living standards are not getting any better. They've got a health system that's been in crisis for a long time, and this health system definitely wasn't ready for the coronavirus. So I think these acts by Donald Trump and Mike Pompeo in pointing the finger at China are just desperate measures in a desperate time for them. There's no substance in what they're pointing the finger at China with, and I think China has every right to ignore it, and I think Australia should ignore it. We should not be used by the US with their finger pointing, with their lies, with their trying to divert attention away from their own mistakes, for Australia to be their barking dog at China. So they're my thoughts on the situation. And all I can do is hope that life does get better for the American people at this time. I also send my best wishes to China in their recovery from the coronavirus, and hope that the people there live a happy life and live a prosperous life, and not get influenced by these external negative interferences from America. For my own country, for Australia, I do hope we pursue a good relationship with China, where we can share ideas, share knowledge, and have a journey together. Not a zero-sum political style that America have, where there has to be an absolute winner and there has to be an absolute loser. And that's the way the American political system is built, and that is why they're attacking China the way they do. When America was founded, it was founded on a zero-sum political attitude and a political initiative. And that was, we're going to kill the Indigenous people, the First Nations people, and we're going to take your land. There's going to be a winner or a loser out of this. They didn't come to America to learn from the First Nations people. They went there to destroy them and to take them over. And I just hope that these riots in America are a wake-up call to America to change the way they treat other countries, the way they do foreign affairs with other countries, and the way they treat their people, and in particular African American people. Because they were brought to America not by their own will. They were brought there as slaves, and their life has not been easy. And it hasn't been easy as well for a lot of other people in America who don't have access to good health care and who are living in poverty, whether it's white people or coloured people. They're all going through these problems, and now there's a reaction happening in America. Something has to change there in the way they treat their people in other countries. Well, anyway, thank you for your time. That's my thoughts. And yeah, keep well and keep safe. And I should speak again sometime with you. Bye bye.